Devil May Cry 1, released on August 23rd, 2001, and developed by Capcom, is a franchise I hold near and dear to my heart, and I have been a fan of this since 2005 when I played Devil May Cry 3 for the first time. Devil May Cry 3 was amazing. It felt like a cooler, more stylish, heavier Kingdom Hearts. Later on, I would play the first game, and I remember it having a very different vibe from what I was expecting after playing the third one. Later on, I would go on to play the first game, the second one, and the rest of the games in the series as they came out, but I always remembered the first game having an extremely different vibe from the rest of the series. While Devil May Cry 3 is fast and stylish, and Devil May Cry 2 is boring, Devil May Cry 1 kind of felt like a horror game to me, and the intro of it really did put me on edge, I remember as a kid. Now, if you know Devil May Cry's development, this isn't too shocking, as we all know it branched off from Resident Evil 4, as the developers thought Tony Redgrave was too cool of a character with a stylish combat and big red coat, so they decided to pivot and change it to Devil May Cry. Today, I want to make the case that despite having that pivot and changing the franchise entirely, I think Devil May Cry 1 is still a horror game, albeit horror action. I want to take you through what I consider the introduction to this game. So join me as I convince you that Devil May Cry is indeed my favorite horror game. Let's get started.
I'm absolutely crazy about it!
Devil May Cry opens up with the story of Sparta, where 2,000 years ago this bug knight sealed the door to the demon world away to save humanity. He'd then stay on humanity's side and preserve peace and keep up the status quo, and then eventually get called the legendary Dark Knight Sparta. And I still to this day don't know why he's called the Dark Knight when he saved all of humanity. After this, we cut to a beautiful moonlit sky where a mysterious biker babe jumps out of the moon and shows up in the middle of the night wearing sunglasses for some reason, and looks at the store that says Devil May Cry. And this is where we get our first glimpse of our main character, Dante.
Help, my mom's getting murdered by a bunch of demons. Please don't go. Wait, no, what do you mean? It closed. Don't do it now.
Mysterious biker babe then decides to burst through the door with a motorcycle, not believing in handles apparently, and exposition dumps on our main boy here. She lets us know, and Dante apparently, that he is the son of Sparta, and his mom and brother died 20 years ago, killed by demons, and then she gives Dante our first impalement of the series. Then she also shocks him with lightning, which seems to hurt him, and she throws her motorcycle at him. Now Dante just obliterates it with infinite ammo pistols. And then exposition dumps Trish, let her know she is right, and that he is half demon. He accepts the job as he seems to be trying to kill the demons that killed his family, and believing powerful demons like Trish will get him one step closer. And that's when Trish takes off her sunglasses, and finally Dante notices, this woman looks just like his mom. And we're off, and we finally get to play the game. But not before one more exposition dump, where we learn that Mundus came back 20 years ago, and he is trying to fully resurrect himself and reopen the portal to the demon world and destroy all of humanity for some reason. Now, before we get to the main question, is Devil May Cry 1 my favorite horror game? Let me give you an example of what a true action game looks like in the same series. I'm not going to linger on this too long, but if you haven't played Devil May Cry 3, this is how it starts. You are literally just in this small room, getting jumped by a bunch of demons. There's nowhere to run, but at the same time, why would you run? This is your turn to learn the controls and destroy everything. Fast-paced metal music, cool flashy combos, and the characters are so relaxed, he literally yells out in excitement as he rips everything apart. There's no fear for Dante. If anything, this could only be seen as horror when looking through the eyes of the poor demons that get obliterated in the sand like a bad Spider-Man villain. Now let's cut to where the game and my debate begins. After kicking in the door and immediately being left alone, you take control of Dante on Malay Island. You'll notice that there is no fast-paced music. All you hear is the eerily quiet sound of the wind blowing through the air. You walk up, and the first item you receive is a yellow orb, which is your respawn tool, almost like a present with a note that says, "Good luck." This subconsciously raised the question in the player's mind. Why are they already giving me this? And whether you know it or not, you are at least a little on edge. You make your way up to the Spencer Castle here, complete with cinematic pan away with zoom, and go inside where there is now music, but not the pumping, fast-paced music of an action game. Eerie, ominous, and atmospheric music fills the background as you slowly walk around and explore the area. Whether you know it or not, this is a classic horror game tutorial. No pop-ups, no yellow paint. You need to find 45 red orbs to open this door and continue. With the classic Resident Evil style, fixed camera angles, highlighting things slightly out of reach, this encourages you to learn how to run around, jump off the walls, interact with objects, and clues you in on 2 different types of locked doors. A literal locked door that for some reason needs a rusty key, and a paywall of orbs. And after you collect all these orbs and jump on this horse a bunch of times, because I swear it gave you a bunch of orbs, you finally leave the tutorial room. After you leave the room and go upstairs, you still feel a little sketched out. The music is still there, but every now and then, it has this weird, upbeat, almost circus-like tune to it that feels so out of place that it isn't uplifting. You get to a glowing object and finally pick up the rusty key from this weird marionette that's just holding it. And once you grab this key is when the horror and action both kick in spades. As Dante walks away, 2 daggers fly right at him from behind, and as he turns around, he sees this face. Even Dante is startled by this, as you the player likely were too, and as he is witnessing the marionette contort its body in front of him, another one drops from the ceiling. This is where I argue horror action, as the enemies even display their horror elements proudly, from the weird twisty movements to being able to dangle you up on strings as you helplessly watch them swing away at you. Yes, you are an all-powerful half-demon, but this still made you, the player, uneasy. Then you beat the crap out of him and many more, but as you walk around, you still don't know where the next one will come from, as these puppets lay all around the castle. After some fighting, this level is over, and it felt 3/4 horror and 1/4 action game in this first level, and overall, it's an amazing moment of great intuitive game design that teaches you how to play the game, except it never really tells you how guns work. They don't let you know at any point that if you're not locking on, the shoot button doesn't work, and you just kind of have to figure that out or check the controls. I knew he could do this from previous experience, so it still took me a minute, I'm not gonna lie. As you make your way through the creepy hallways filled with giant bladed puppets, the action music picks up a bit, and you might even feel a little more comfortable than you did before. You might even think, you know, they might be creepy, but they're weak, so this isn't too bad at this very moment. But when you get to the end of the hallway, you come across a statue of a woman impaled by a sword. This resonates with Mr. Impalement himself so hard that the sword manifests his wish for another hole in the chest. He gets impaled by the lightning sword Alistor. Then, Dante peels himself off the sword and rises yet again. See our first true Dante tries out a new toy scene in the series, where now he is blasted with lightning, and unlike when Trish did it, it doesn't actually hurt him, and then he slices all the falling glass shards caused by the lightning bolt that just hit him through the ceiling. This sword gives you a faster, cooler electric sword, and it grants Dante the use of his devil trigger for the first time in the series. Right after this, you can find the shotgun, but he doesn't play with it. He just kind of accepts this one, and I noticed that's a trend in the series that Dante's never really excited to get a shotgun. After getting the rusty key here, you head to a previously locked door and kill more puppets in the courtyard to test out your new toys, even use your new devil trigger. The game has eased up a lot here from that first level. It's now letting you see that while this was horror, we are going to let you have some fun, and I would argue that some of the best horror games out there follow this kind of formula. I would say this is a benefit to Devil May Cry as a horror game, not a detractor. Let's look at some of those games real quick. Resident Evil 4, Condemned, Criminal Origins, Dead Space, and one of my personal favorites, Fear. These games all have intense, scary, creepy moments, followed by heavy combat where you feel like you're an action star. After looking around some more and disrespecting the dead, we find the Staff of Judgment, and this is when the level's horror really kicks in. The wall slides shut behind you and the creepy music starts. When you try to leave, you are denied access, but you're followed by a disturbing laugh as the Grim Reaper comes alive from a painting. Wait a minute, living paintings? Dark atmosphere? Challenging gameplay? Oh shit, this is a dark side. Anyway, these Reapers are more annoying and will put you on edge because they seem to phase through the walls and wait for their moment to drill into you. Like they're stalking you and waiting for their moment like you're their prey. As a kid, I thought these guys were way tougher, but I'm noticing now they just die from one point-blank shotgun shot to the face, and after you finish them off, you basically leave through the newly opened exit and call it an end for level 2. Level 3 begins, and it's immediately scary intense. The white seal shows up that says enemies are near and locks the doors. The columns in the room come to life, and the entire room looks like it is pumping blood through a living castle. The camera highlights a stone tablet in the front of the room, and so you go check it out when it shoots out a beam of light and obliterates the seal. The whole time there's this crazy pipe organ solo going on in the background that's just hyping you up, making you think something's also about to happen, when suddenly, nothing. Nothing happens at all. You leave the room and you go out on this bridge, and as you approach the poorly worded clue, you'll either get what it's saying or eventually give up and go back, which is also the solution. As Dante gets struck by lightning a third time, and the bridge scatters and you fall in the water. Drowning, pretty common fear that I know of. And if you look at your health bar, you notice you too are drowning. Panic might set in as you run forward looking for an easy way out, when you're jumped by a bunch of living giant skulls and the music jumps into action. These skulls can be annoying, and if you don't just use your shotgun to blast them in their giant face, then they can be kind of tough. But after it's over, you're back on the bridge and you go back in the room to grab the tablet. And after doing this, Dante is attacked by the first real boss fight in the series.
Ah, yeah!
This boss is named Phantom, and he's a giant magma scorpion spider who trash talks. This is what the buildup was for, and honestly, pick your phobia. Especially if it's arachnophobia, because I know quite a few people with that, and this would definitely terrify them. This boss can be very daunting for a first-time player. His thick armor bounces your sword off. He has fire pillars that erupt from the ground. He shoots giant fireballs from his mouth. And if you get close enough, he'll knock you away with his stinger or his little claws on the front. Expect a few deaths in your first run. But there are a few tricks that let you crush this bug. You can hit him from above with helmet breakers until he goes down, run away when you see fire pillars, or shoot at him to build up your devil trigger, then unleash it to be a bit safe and stun lock the boss. With some persistence though, Phantom will melt into a puddle. And this is all for this level, and I would say it's definitely more horror than action as you have one boss fight. And let's not forget, that boss fight is a giant spider, like so many other horror games before it. Devil May Cry also loves giant spiders. I was gonna cover the entire game and even wrote the script past level 10, but that's when I started to feel like my points were getting redundant. Every level repeats one or more of the elements I've said already, with the exception of giant invisible acid-spitting Resident Evil bugs in the sewer, and the hydrophobic underwater cramped section where you have to swim past monsters when you feel utterly helpless for like 10 seconds. And I love this game as a horror game, and I love it as an action game. And let me know what you think. Am I crazy? Did I sway you at all? Would you call this a horror game? Are you gonna call this a horror game? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're still here, that means you liked the video. So go ahead and like the video and subscribe for more Just Owl. Thank you everyone, and have fun.